had to go get my own tissue and bring it up. So maybe Tommy said, yeah, you're going to need it, I bet you. Okay. Well, I'm a Christ follower who struggles with self-doubt, powerlessness, and physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. And my name's Tonya.
Hey, Tonya.
As far back as I can remember, I've struggled with self-doubt. Self-doubt is defined as timidity, lacking boldness or courage, and powerlessness or lacking strength or being weak. This is a combination of my character defects put me at a very much disadvantage, or so it seemed. As a child going through school, I was teased, as most of us were. My self-doubt continued through elementary school as I struggled with the ability to read that went undetected. Due to a back injury when I was 6, I was pretty reserved in play, so I became the person who would befriend any new student that came to school, or the kids that were those kids, the ones that no one liked. This, although I didn't know it at the time, was a way that I could find value in myself. Middle school was a new experience for me, though. While I struggled in school, I excelled at my favorite sport, track. Running had become a way of escape for me. I really liked to run, and it became a place of security. I might have had a lot of self-doubt in my abilities at school, but I could really run well. As I went on through middle school and high school, my self-doubt really did not improve until I started receiving compliments from a much older man in the community. He would make comments about how sexy I looked, and how he was turned on by me. I liked the attention, and it made me feel better about myself. And although it made me uncomfortable, at times I sought it out. As time went on, he decided to take it further than just comments, and he molested me. This sent my self-doubt even further in the wrong direction, and the feelings of powerlessness set in. Then there were the bad boys in school who would make inappropriate comments also. At this point, I really wasn't sure how to handle what was being said or what to do about it. I didn't stick up for myself, and this led my self-doubt plummeting further down. As I advanced into high school, I went through several unhealthy relationships. I even moved into an engagement as a senior with a guy that had graduated the year before and joined the Marines. To prove my love and devotion to him, I made the decision to have sex with him. About 6 months later, I found out that he was not being faithful, and the engagement ended. As you can guess, my self-doubt was pretty low at this point. As I struggled with more and more of my hurts, I found my security and my sanctuary in running. Looking ahead at the last half of my senior year, I really had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had taken correspondence courses throughout my senior year and as a travel agent, and I had gone to modeling school in Denver. But as graduation approached, I didn't feel like either of those were the direction for my future. I decided I needed to get a job for a year and try and get some direction figured out for my life. After graduation, I was hired at Walmart as a bike assembler. This was perfect, as I love to work with my hands. I was given my own workspace on the top floor of the store near the layaway department as my workshop. 8 hours a day, I built bicycles, barbecue grills, lawnmowers, basically anything they wanted me to build. I loved the independence and had the trust of my bosses. As my first job, I was really excited. Then, as time went on, several of my male coworkers and 2 of my bosses decided to start taking their breaks in the upstairs area where a young single girl was assembling bikes. This became a very unsafe and dreaded place for me. Sexual dares and sexual harassment were a regular part of my job for almost a year. What was I a girl with self-doubt issues, going to do with 2 bosses that were sexually harassing her? Well, looking back, I wish that I had stood up to them and turned them in, but I didn't. I'm sad to say that it took a younger employee getting pregnant by one of the bosses before the truth would come out. One boss was transferred, the other was fired. That was the secret that I kept hidden for many years. I can honestly say that if I had known then what I've learned through Celebrate Recovery, I would have made some better decisions. That's why it's so important to have Celebrate Recovery program, but also to have the landing for our teens and celebration place for our children 5th grade and down. At this time, I decided that I wanted to go to college. I left home and went to Gunnison to attend Western State College, or as it was known back then, Wasted State. In the fall, this was a new start for me, and I had many friends. I had some wonderful experiences and worked on campus cleaning dorms. My boss was amazing. He was a retired military man, and he showed me so much respect and encouragement. We became friends very quickly, as my work ethic was strong, thanks to my parents. I loved my classes, and I had once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to travel abroad for a month with the college community choir. Choir was great, and I excelled at it, and it was a way that I could build boldness and courage in my life. The summer before my junior year at college, I met a man who would be my future husband. Doug was fun and exciting, the kind of exciting that I had not been a part of before. He was a fraternity brother, and there was always something fun going on at the frat house. It was a wild place. Our relationship moved very quickly, and before long, I was making decisions that would change the rest of my life. You see, I was not raised in a Christian home. Although my parents were great parents and they taught me great values, I did not have a relationship with Christ. Doug came from a broken home and really did not have a relationship with Christ either. He had been exposed to the Episcopal Church growing up, but by no means was he attending and growing in his faith. It was about this time that the decisions that I was talking about earlier changed the life of both Doug and I. I became pregnant. This is when Doug and I started attending the Episcopal Church. We were loved there, we were supported, and we felt forgiven and accepted. Doug and I were married in June, and our oldest son, Brendan, was born in August. Doug and I were faithful members of the Episcopal Church. We were both part of choir, taught with children in the children's area, and looking back, I still did not have a real relationship with Christ. I thought life was so good. That's when the first of several affairs happened, although I would not find this out till much later in our marriage. In '95, Anthony, our second son, joined our family. Soon after Anthony's arrival, we moved back to Mancos to help out on the farm because my mom was having some health issues. We moved into my dad's parents' house in May. It was great to be there with the boys. They could have open space to run and to play and to learn. Such growth took place in the boys during this time on the farm. Doug soon got a job in Durango at a nursing home and worked in the 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. shift. I began working at Trinity Preschool. Sure, we went to church every Sunday and we participated in church activities, but still, that personal relationship was not there. Doug's second affair took place during this time. I was not so blind, and I had confronted him, and he became physically violent. There were times before where he had been emotionally and verbally abusive, but this was the first time that physical violence had taken place. After that time, the emotional verbal abuse became greater. Walking on eggshells was a daily part of life. The hiding, not wanting friends, withdrawal, and denial were overwhelming, and this led into that character defect of self-doubt. In January of 1997, another tragedy struck. We lost our house and everything in it to a fire. It was a total loss of our things, but we had all made it out alive. We gave thanks to God, for he saved us. I praise him that we were all safe. This was a time that we experienced the love of God through his people. So many people helped us during this time. We were so loved and cared for. We believed it was God's plan to provide for us in this way. While this was a great outpouring of God's love, the powerlessness that I felt during this time was so overwhelming. We had nothing but our lives, nowhere to live, nothing that we could call our own, and no insurance. But we had a mighty God who had a plan and could use all that we had been through for his plan for good for us. We moved into my parents' house until we could figure out what our next steps would be. Within a couple months, we found a trailer to rent in town. I went back to work at Trinity, and Doug had now changed jobs and was working at a nursing home in Mancus. Life seemed once again to be moving along in a forward motion, although my suspicions of another affair came to the surface. On the night I confronted him about the repeatedly being late coming home, the violence was much more severe. We did seek counseling from the father at the Episcopal Church. The counseling consisted of me being told that Doug was really struggling with an issue of never being good enough for his father, and my suspicions were only adding to his feelings of inadequacy. I needed to support him more and read 1 Corinthians 13 over and over until I found out what love was. I considered leaving Doug at this time, but instead I decided to try to support him the way that the Father had counseled. In 1999, we put down a down payment on our home, and I thought we were making some great changes. It was really great to have our own home, and the kids were growing and doing well. In January of 2000, the staff at Trinity went to Grand Junction for a teacher training. Through a chain of events, we all ended up going to the same church together. The message at Fellowship Church that morning was a real wake-up call for me. God really got my attention, and after 30 years of running from God, I fully surrendered my life to him. I was so filled with the Spirit that all I could do was cry and praise him. I know, the cry part's a surprise to everybody out there, right?
We love you.
I came home and I was on fire, and I wanted to know more, and I wanted to learn more, all I could. I started getting up early, very early in the morning, and reading my Bible and praying. Instead of using physical running as a sanctuary, I began to run to God as my sanctuary. Doug, on the other hand, was convinced that I had attended an occult and wanted nothing to do with any of it. It was almost a year later that Doug broke the news to me that he wanted a divorce. He hadn't loved me for many years, and he was finished. He packed a little bit of his belongings and moved in with another woman. As the weeks moved on, and I started to go through his things in the house, I came across a picture of a young girl. And through some research, I found that she was the result of his first affair. Sadly, since the affair went unacknowledged, the young girl would never know her dad. This was a time of deep searching for me, and a time when God provided a Bible verse that would carry me through many hard times and hard days ahead. The verse is Isaiah 40, 28 through 31. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary. In his understanding, no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths will grow tired and weary. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men will stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. This verse is still one that I fall back on when I'm feeling weak and need the strength to walk forward. After the divorce, I tried to keep the house that we were living in, but that with only one salary, that wasn't possible. At this time, Doug really did not want anything to do with the boys or myself, and that would be the story for about the next 7 years. In March of 2003, I put the house on the market and moved into my mom's parents' house in town. It was now empty, as my grandma was unable to live alone anymore. It's really amazing to me how God can work and how Satan tries to foil his plans. We finished moving into my grandma's house at the end of February, and 13 days later, it burned to the ground. Let me tell you, the second time you lose everything is a lot easier than the first time. There were several people at this time that had asked me if I thought God was trying to tell me that I was not supposed to be in Mancus anymore. I truly believe that God was teaching me that it was time to stop running away and run fully into his open arms. God was a huge part of my life and the boys' lives at this point, and we decided that either he was trying to teach us something or he was trying to teach someone else something through us. With God's help, again, the outpouring from the community, we picked up the pieces and decided that this was not going to stop us. We went to the local thrift store, got clothes for that the boys could wear to karate that night. We went and got school clothes for the next day, and we were moving forward. With God as our strength and our comfort, we were able to continue running the race that had been marked out before us. As the boys and I put our lives back together as a family of 3, we started attending Rock Springs Church. We were baptized together, and God was doing a mighty work in all of our lives. I've been running full speed ever since, being involved in children's ministry, teens ministry, serving on Sundays, worship ministry, and prayer ministry. As a single mother, I was involved in most everything that my boys did. Football, cross country, basketball, track, as well as church life and teaching special education full-time. Life was definitely not easy as a single mother with 2 teen boys, but God was so faithful. My boys were very athletically gifted, but their bodies were not to compete in sports. Through their high school careers, they had many broken bones, torn ligaments, concussions, 7 surgeries, but God also gave them hearts for people and musical abilities, which both of them are serving in a mighty way now. I'm so thankful that God grabbed their hearts when they were young. I'm very blessed. I love sharing experiences with them and being part of their lives. But with all children, they grew up and left home. This led me to a time of questioning. What am I going to do with my free time? This is when I went to the leadership conference with Pastor David, and one of the sessions was talked about a holy discontent. This is where I was in my life. When I came home, I was ready to move into something more. I just didn't know what. Then the announcement about CR came. I thought, maybe I should go see how I can help out. I didn't think that I would need the program myself. When I left that night, I had volunteered to help lead worship. I thought that was what God had led me to celebrate recovery for. As I started listening to the lessons and becoming more involved, I started to see where my own hurts, habits, and hang-ups were, and that I needed to let God do some work in me. One of the most recent things that God has helped me to grow through is that Rock Springs Church was looking into the purchase of the old Walmart building for our new church. This is the building where I was sexually harassed by coworkers and bosses. We as a church have not been able to continue with the purchase of that building, but God did take me through a huge healing process in the last year. I feel that God has brought me beauty from ashes. I'm so thankful that God took me through this healing process, and through Celebrate Recovery, I was prepared and ready for that process. Since I've been in recovery, God has not only opened my eyes to the past abuse that I went through and brought me to a point of healing from those abuses. He continues to heal and strengthen me daily. In addition to working my program, I'm learning how to build healthy relationships and help with healthy people who not only encourage me, but are able to call me out when I need called out. I'm volunteering, but I learned healthy boundaries about my volunteer work. The ultimate test of my defect of character, my self-doubt, has been leading Celebrate Recovery. God knew that this would stretch and build my self-confidence. If I'm really honest, when I first started leading Celebrate Recovery, there wasn't a Saturday go by that I didn't wake up questioning myself. I have to say that as I've worked through Principle 5 for the 5th time, I'm getting better. I'm not finished working yet because I still have Saturdays when I wake up doubting myself. But it's not every Saturday any longer. I'm growing and working in the program. I'm replacing the doubt with worship music, prayer, and reaching out to friends. They help me to see the progress that I've made and remove the doubt that the devil tries to plant in my mind. I did not plan to be the ministry leader of Celebrate Recovery. Although looking back in my school years, I guess that I was in training at a very young age. Befriending the new student, talking to those who were lonely, encouraging those who were struggling. You know what I mean. Those kids or those people. I'm blessed and thankful for all the support that it is, and it is an honor to be able to serve in this capacity. To love people where they are, but to know that God loves me and each of them too much to leave us this way.
Amen.
Hebrews 12, 1-2 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and every sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race that has been marked out before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith." Thank you for letting me share.